A few of you in the comments have been asking for a revisit to Sharen for the channel, and seeing as it's been 5 months since the last build for her, yeah, it's probably overdue. So Sharen is still the queen of being able to do insanely high damage for guns and skills alike, while also doing it with ease thanks to her stealth making enemies unable to target you. Now with the recent addition of the Arche tuning and Sigma sector, it's about time that we take a look as to what she can currently do. So in this video we'll be looking at my latest ambush build for Ultimate Sharen, designed for mobbing and bosses and purge runs and getting through them completely unscathed. We'll break it down with how the build works, what modules and gears you'll need, and lastly talk about what content you should be bringing her to. We've got a lot to cover, so as always, let's get to it. Now there's only one thing I love more than putting together new builds on TFD, and that's saving money on incredible gaming gear, and thanks to today's sponsor, you can do just that. After the success of last year's Playdays event, Logitech are bringing it back with even more ways for you to enjoy your favourite games. You'll find a wide range of discounts on Logitech gear, from headsets to keyboards to gaming mice and even more, so you'll be sure to find the perfect item at a low price. Take these Astro A50 Lightspeeds for example, made with Logitech's Lightspeed wireless in mind, giving you unparalleled wireless performance, Pro G graphene audio drivers for detail and clarity that you won't believe, and PlaySync audio switching, allowing you to have this hooked up to 3 gaming systems at once so you can swap between them all with the press of a button. Why have multiple headsets when you can have just the one do it for you? And for all you enthusiasts out there, you can even personalise the sound and microphone in the G-Hub app, allowing you to play your way. I've personally been using Logitech items for years now, and while I've tried other brands in the past, I keep coming back to them for how they feel and they perform. So if you want to take advantage of the savings, head yourself to the link down below between the dates of May 21st and June 2nd and grab yourself a bargain. Massive thank you to Logitech for the sponsor, and let's get back to the video. Alright then, so starting with the module screen as we always tend to do, the main kind of focus around this build is going to be that of the Red Transcendence mod of Ambush. Now, if you've not used Ambush before, to understand basically what this does, while you are inside of your active camouflage, you have a chance of being able to reset and kind of stay in that kind of current duration when you land a critical hit or manage to finish an enemy off. Now, when you go inside of your active camouflage, the reason why it's so good and why you do want to be able to keep this active as much as possible is the fact that you get some really nice buffs while you're inside this. You get a movement speed increase of 30%, same with your cooldown decrease of 30%, and then when you go into ambush, which is going to be any of your damage that you will be chucking out while you're in this state, you do have a 100% increase to your outgoing damage, which is huge, and then you get a base critical hit rate for your skills and your firearm of 22%, and that allows us to be able to get up to 100% critical hit rate with certain builds, as well as being able to go into firearms that don't normally crit, being able to actually crit when it comes to this ability. Now, being able to stay inside of active camouflage comes from our passive, which is going to be ambush, and while you're inside of your active camouflage, defeating an enemy or landing a critical hit has a 30% chance of being able to reactivate that active camouflage. Now, on top of that, to be able to help you out in purge runs while you're inside of your active camouflage, defeating an enemy with a skill automatically resets that active camouflage cooldown, and you can see that we get that chance being able to get a proc every 17.1 seconds, so it's not like you can always have this, but the main reset, the main thing that we are focusing on inside of purge runs is going to be that first line of being able to land those critical hits so that we have a 30% chance of being able to reactivate it and stay invisible. Now, staying invisible means that we cannot be targeted, and because of that we don't actually need a HP mod, which is why we don't have one as it currently sits inside of this build. The main kind of focuses that we do go for when it comes to this are going to be critical hit rate, critical hit damage, and then being able to give ourselves a little bit of quality of life so that we have either the most amount of MP sustain, or being able to, so that we can do even more damage and being able to have that range to be able to inflict it on as many enemies as possible. Now, the main thing that we should focus on straight away in terms of like the calculations is why we don't have skill insight here to be able to help us out when it comes to crits. Now, the main reason why is because, and I will put the maths up on the screen right here, skill concentration, front lines, and emergency measures combine that to be able to give us a 92.3% increase to our critical hit rate. So when it comes to crit rate, we do have a 20% base rate when it comes to Ultimate Sharen. We'd get an additional 22% base rate from going into our ambush, and that means that we only need a 127% increase to our critical hit rate so that we can reach that max of 100%. Now, without insight, we can get 92.3% of that already, so that means we only need to find an additional 34.7 to be able to max that out, and that can come from a multitude of areas, whether that comes from our reactor or whether it comes from our Arche tuning. It means that we don't need to go into skill insight, and it would be a waste of a slot for us to be able to put that one in. So we are going to focus on those 3 crit modules, so allowing us to be able to do the most amount of damage and also give us the ease of being able to get that 100% critical hit rate. On top of that, we also don't need to be able to go into cooldown too much with this build because of as to how the active camouflage is going to give us that 30% cooldown decrease while we stay within that. So we do only go for MP conversion and nimble fingers, allowing us to get to 62.1%, and once you add that 30% on there, we are slightly overcapping, but that means that we are going to get to that 90% cooldown cap, and that allows us to be able to spam most of our abilities on ridiculously short cooldowns. It's for that reason as to why we only go for Electric Specialist as well instead of focus on Electric, and that allows us to be able to get even more electric skill power chucked into all of our abilities. Now the last of the mods are going to be things of quality of life, just really kind of helping us out or being able to cram out a little bit of damage. So we do go for Maximize Conservation because we are going to be spamming our Cut-Off Beam, and that allows us to be able to mitigate what we've got with our component set, but it also means that we can spam it more freely, and that allows us to be able to get our way through most of the Purge runs, especially when it comes to getting through that boss. Next up, we do have Skill Expansion. This allows us to pretty much hit range cap when it comes to most of our abilities, so we don't need to be able to chuck any more in there. Most of our abilities have ridiculously low max expandable range, so just the one range mod combined with everything else that we do have going for her when it comes to arcade tuning and also going into reinforcement is more than enough for essentially what we need to be able to do for it. We have MP Collector, which allows us to be able to go through high density mobbing areas like, for example, Purge runs, and being able to consistently keep restocking our MP, so we never have to really worry about running short. And then lastly, we have Dangerous Ambush, and because we aren't going to have many enemies targeting us because we're going to be invisible, it means that we're going to get that additional skill power of 24.9%, and that is going to help us out with our damage output, chucked back into all of our crits and everything of the like. So that wraps things up when it comes to the module side of things. Let's start having a talk about some of the gear, and the main thing we're going to start off with is going to be the reactor. Now there is a little bit that we need to talk about when it comes to the sub-rolls, but the main kind of focus and the thing that's going to be consistent throughout is the fact that you do want a tingling mixture reactor. Now, every single one of our damaging abilities are going to be fusion based, so this makes sense for us to go into there. When it comes to the mounting wise, you will absolutely want a beam rifle, but we will discuss this a little bit more when it comes to the weaponry section, because we kind of need to discuss what the weapon is able to do to be able to understand why we actually need that there. And then lastly, when it comes to the rolls, I do think that I've got second best in slot with this, but critical hit rate and critical hit damage is fantastic, but the only thing that can currently beat it is probably going to be a crit damage and fusion ratio, due to the fact that we can improve her crit rate by going into arcade tuning, and we do have a couple of different ways to be able to actually build into that. Now if you do have a crit hit rate and crit hit damage, you are still going to be having a fantastic reactor on your hands. There's only a slight difference between the two, but if you are looking to be able to maximize the pure amount of damage that you will be chucking out, then obviously fusion ratio and crit damage is going to be the way, but still critical hit rate and critical hit damage can still get the job done. Now swapping on over to the component set, because Electric is still yet to get a solid set that is specific to their typing, so for example Toxic and Non-Attribute recently got some fantastic sets, instead we're going to be rocking that of the 4-piece of the Slayer here for the best amount of damage. Now in terms of rolls, you absolutely need to go into MP here, so being able to get max MP and MP recovery in combat on your sensor, MP recovery out of combat on your auxiliary power, and also an MP recovery on your memory is going to be the best in slots in terms of the rolls. In terms of everything else, it kind of relies on you being hit to be able to actually benefit from those, so therefore it doesn't really matter too much being able to have those, because we're going to have impermanent invisibility, so why do we need to worry about getting extra MP or extra HP or going into that of resistance? Now kicking things off with the weaponry side of things, some weapons are absolutely amazing in Sharen's hands, as her invisibility will also boost the base crit rate on those guns, so even things like Malevolent can crit reliably with this kind of setup. So for general use and mobbing, and also working your way through Sigma Sector to be able to get your arcade tuning sorted, I would recommend going into that of a Malevolent or a Restored Relic to really kind of help you out being able to push those heavy kind of mobbing situations, especially when you've got like 300 enemies that you do have to be able to take down ridiculously quickly. Now we do also have the option of being able to go into Perforator. Perforator is still a fantastic weapon being able to use with Sharen, because it does rely on you being able to crit, but also it gives you the chance with the invisibility, being able to get up close and personal with certain elites, so you can land those reliable weak points and being able to spawn the most amount of explosives to be able to like do some really nice AoE damage when it comes to the Perforator. But the best in slot for Purge runs especially, or any kind of mobbing scenario where you need to be able to have that 100% uptime on your active camouflage, is going to be Kingsguard Lance, and the reason why is because of its unique ability when it comes to deploying Guardian Lances. Now every single one of these lances is able to send out multiple beams to any enemies that are within the same kind of area. Every single one of these beams can critically hit, which means that because of the passive that we do have, every single one of those applying a specific damage number to an enemy has a 30% chance of being able to reset your ambush and your active camouflage. Not only is this going to be helping you out in terms of keeping your active camouflage going, it means that while that is constantly going, you do have your ambush as well, meaning that you're going to be maintaining that extra 100% outgoing damage increase, as well as the critical hit rate for your skills, as well as all of your guns. So every single one of these beams, it has some insane synergy when it comes to this build, and I highly recommend that you do manage to maximize this out so you can really get the most out of the Kingsguard Lance. Now, if you are looking for some kind of build when it comes to the Kingsguard Lance to really kind of focus, most of this you can pretty much get rid of, but the main kind of focus that you do want to go for is going to be these three modules right here. Chill is going to help you out in terms of the frostbites, in terms of being able to help out with damage while you're inside Purge level 30. Better Insight and Edging Shot is going to help you out with the critical hit rate and making it much more consistent, and being able to apply those beams and being able to reset your active camouflage. When it comes to the weapon cores though, you do need a core into critical hit rate to really kind of help you out and make it much more consistent. So going into one into critical hit rate, you don't need a second one. It means that you can go into chill attack and firearm attack to really kind of help you out. Being able to chunk down a little bit in terms of the amount of damage when it comes to like regular enemies, but everything else you will essentially use your skills to be able to finish off. And then lastly, when it comes to the sub rolls, as you can see here, I do go for a critical hit damage and a chill attack, but the main kind of thing is just to go into critical hit rate, and that is just going to give you the most kind of consistency when it comes to landing those crits. So just to kind of show it off as to how you're able to stay in permanent invisibility, we can essentially just activate this right here, just put down a lance like this, and then just while we're doing that, we're just going to be spamming our skills, and you can see on the left hand side we're just constantly refreshing that cooldown when it comes to like a duration when it comes to our active camouflage, and you can see that we're just constantly staying here. I don't have to activate my skill 2 anymore, and you can see all the damage that's just going to be racking up on the right hand side. Yeah, this is pretty much how you get your invisibility, and you're just going to be doing this in general, just being able to stay around when it comes to your purge runs. Now going into the Arche tuning, mine is not fully complete, but this is going to be the basic core of the setup that you do want to go for. The additional 10 points that I am going to be working from here are going to be heading over here to help us out with the firearms, but mostly into the critical hit rate, and then also into the critical hit damage, just to give us a little bit extra when it comes to our Kingsguard Lance. Now depending on if you have the crit rate in your reactor or not, you will either want one space into critical hit rate or all three. Because I do have a critical hit rate reactor, this is going to be the setup that I am going to recommend, so therefore I only need the one extra to really help us be able to hit that 100% critical hit rate. Any extra is going to be excessive, and it means that we're going to be overcapping. That said, if you do have a reactor that doesn't have critical hit rate, then this is going to be the setup instead, and then you are going to put one extra point into critical hit damage, and then you're going to do the exact same thing, and you're going to be heading over here, picking up critical hit rates for your firearms as well as critical hit damage, but this kind of chunk here is going to be staying the same, helping you out with skill power, skill power, skill power, and then also into skill cost to really just kind of help out in terms of the amount of damage and being able to constantly chuck those abilities out. Now lastly, when it comes to the Inversion Reinforcement, the best in slot when it comes to going into purge runs is going to be Ammo System, helping us when we land firearm critical hit rates, allowing us to be able to get some of that reload modifier so we don't have as much downtime with being able to chuck those lances out. We also have Chill Focus Rounds to help us out with obviously the resistance for those enemies that are inside Purge level 30, but constantly having a focus round and anything that's going to be in here is going to give us that enhanced focus rounds, allowing us to be able to reduce the resistances of those enemies caught by those beams. And then lastly, we do have Selective Neurostimulation, which is going to work hand in hand with that of the MP Collector, so that we constantly have that refresh when it comes to our MPs bar, allowing us to be able to just freely spam out our skills. Now, if you are looking to be able to go into the Sigma sector to be able to get your Arche tuning fully leveled up, I would recommend taking off Ammo System and then go into Evolutionary Cutting Mechanism instead, and that is allowing you to be able to go with Malevolent and just be able to have a really good time over there, being able to absolutely just decimate when it comes to the mobbing side of things, but those are going to be probably the best in slot when it comes to those ones. And with all that out of the way, that wraps it up on the video for my updated ambushed ult Sharen build. Now, while she doesn't possess the best AoE compared to that of like Inez or Bunny or Blair, Sharen still packs such a punch and can do it in the safety of the shadows with a permanent invisibility if you can manage it well. Huge damage and zero worries, well, that's a recipe for an insanely strong Descendant. But this is the section I want to hear from you. How are you finding Season 2 so far? Have you picked up Sharen since the Arche tuning release? And lastly, what are you hoping Ultimate Luna will bring to her new red mods? Let me know all that and more down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. As I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well. I'll see you all on the next video.